Welcome back to Pure Nebraska. Here on the program, we'd like to put the spotlight on the farm women's group, Common Ground. On both a local and national level, Common Ground volunteers work to spread a positive message about agriculture to consumers.
A big topic is the use of genetically modified organisms in foods. Campbell's Soup has recently started voluntarily listing GMO products used in their soups. And joining us now to talk about the proposed GMO labeling is Common Ground volunteer Karol Swan from York. Thanks so much for being here today,
Well, thank
Karol.
you for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here, and it's always fun.
Well, for folks who, a lot of this stuff can get confusing. So for folks who don't understand GMOs, I guess let's start there. What's a GMO?
It's called a genetically modified organism. There are actually only 8 food items that are genetically modified. We have corn, soybeans, cotton, canola, alfalfa, and sugar beets, and these were developed to be herbicide tolerant, so you could use less herbicides, or insect resistant. Just kind of built into the genetic code of the plant, they are resistant to certain insects, so you don't have to put insecticides on. And then there's 2 others, papaya and squash, and they are for virus resistance. And the way I understand it, we would probably not have any papayas if they hadn't been genetically modified, because the virus was so devastating to the papaya crops in Hawaii. So that's why they were developed. Genetic genes inserted to develop resistance, make them use less water, higher yields, less pesticides. That's one of the main things, is the less pesticides for things. And like I said, it's just 8 food products. It's not everything.
Right.
Some people will get misconstrued. Everything is or isn't.
We mentioned this proposed GMO labeling. What exactly is the labeling? And a lot of us in Nebraska want to know, okay, well, how is it going to affect our ag producers, our state's producers?
Well, it really shouldn't affect them too much. It'll just give an information, because this is strictly an information thing. It's not a safety issue. It's not a nutrition issue. It's just the consumers want to know. So the products, the labeling will come through the food producers mainly. And the food processors, like you mentioned, Campbell's Soup, they will have to, if it's voluntary, they will choose whether to put that their ingredients are GMO or non-GMO. So Senator Pat Robertson of Kansas, he proposed this as on a voluntary basis. And there has been other proposals through the years, but they've been rescinded. And this would be to preempt state legislation. Now, one state, Vermont, and I think Owen Jensen visited with Bernie Sanders about this, Vermont has passed legislation to make it mandatory for GMO labeling in their state, which will start July 1st. So the federal wants to preempt all state legislation. So that's their purpose, is so the states don't have individual hodgepodge of proposals, because I read through some of the state proposals, and you have everything from simply a right to know for consumers to going totally non-GMO on all their products for whatever reason.
Interesting. Is there a place that people can go to get more information about this?
There's various USDA websites, FSIS, Food Safety Inspection Service, AMS, which is Agriculture Marketing Service, the FDA. There was a research website for the USDA that gives information, plus all of your food processors, like you mentioned, Campbell's Soup, and your other major, just go through your grocery store and Google them and ask their position on GMO products, and they will have a little position statement.
Sure.
The consensus of these processors was they have used them for 20 years. They are comfortable using them. They're safe. They are more than willing to label if it's a federal labeling. They don't want to have to deal with the different states, being they're national corporations. All of them said, which I found interesting, that on the stewardship level, that it uses less pesticides, less water, that it's good for things, and then at the bottom, that it's necessary for global food security. So all these processors are pretty much on board with that, which I thought was interesting. And then there was another thing, to make the labeling, or kind of why the consumer has this right to request labeling information, is that in 1962, President Kennedy passed Consumers' Bill of Rights, so consumers have a right to safety, be informed, a right to choose and a right to be heard. So this is kind of where
Goes along those
All
lines.
right.
where this is coming from, because the consumers want to know. Like I said, it's not a safety issue.
Right.
It's not a nutrition issue. The consumers just want to know.
Knowledge.
Thanks for chatting with us about
Well,
GMO labeling.
Carol.
Well, thank
Carol.
you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Some great news.